So lore is really important to me. For those of you who know me, once again, I went to college for English and writing. But getting out of college, I wasn't able to actually break into the industry and really pursue it. And man, it depressed me for a little bit. It really did. I had major creative block, like writer's block, like you wouldn't believe. Even though I had a bunch of different stories in the works, I felt like I couldn't write them. I couldn't even come up with the usual poems. And like I had a Tumblr for a very long time. That was just kind of like a personal little live blog. And even there, like I would just keep it like mostly like as a journal for myself, right? And even there, I couldn't put to words a lot of like my feelings and everything. Like big Foxboy softy moment here, guys. But yeah, I was just stuck with writing for a really long time. And it really wasn't like, it got better a little bit here and there. I could like get a poem out or whatnot. But it wasn't really until I started VTubing and like I got the idea of Sen and all of like everything about the character down that I really wanted to start writing again. And just a little bit out of character, I guess, but I really do want and have the plans to continue the lore and the story throughout my VTubing journey, as I think it's something that like a lot of VTubers have lore, but I have the idea of tying it to my journey as a streamer. So every milestone we reach, or every time I think I've hit a big milestone, like something really worth celebrating, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to come up with more reasons to get more tails. And for those of you that know about like Kitsune or like Gumiho and like mythology, well, the Vulpin are my take on the Kitsune and stuff. And as they get more tails, they're pretty much more powerful. That's just like kind of the gist, right? So as you guys make me more powerful, I'm trying to get more tails, and I'll keep writing this story to show. And eventually, like I think like if I make it like huge, like big as a streamer, I think my eventual final model will have 9 tails and will be the galaxy's next 9-tailed protector at that point. So this is like, I guess, eventually going to be my kind of like VTuber magnum opus. So without any further ado, let's get reading on into chapter 1, Blessed by Ice. On the icy planet of Volparis, there lives a humanoid race aptly named the Vulpin, a technologically advanced spacefaring race with certain fox-like features that has traveled to every edge of the Milky Way galaxy. Yet, with all of their knowledge and power, they remain a reclusive race. It's rare to find a Vulpin even in the meltiest of intergalactic melting pots. Many Vulpin have strong familial and spiritual ties to their home planet. As such, their people don't often leave no matter how the galaxy calls. Near the northern city of Shirado, built into the side of one of Volparis' tallest mountains, there is a shrine. The Great Shirakami Shrine was always busy with thousands of Vulpin visitors every day. These Vulpin sought spiritual guidance, while the Shimizu clan, who owned the shrine, had been responsible for its care and protection for generations. Shimizu Senxain, at the time a 20-year-old spirit guide following in his family's footsteps, spent much of his time helping perform rituals for spiritual cleansing, divining the fates of patrons, and helping lead spirits to their most peaceful final resting places. Vulpin after Vulpin would find peace by his guidance, yet doing the same thing day in and day out started to take its toll. Like many of the lost souls seeking guidance, Sen also wished to be guided somewhere new, better, more fulfilling. Sen spent 4 more years of his life harboring these feelings until he decided to take control of his own fate. Over his time in complete service to the shrine, much was provided for him, and he had little reason to ever spend any money he earned. Sen took his life savings, a sizable fortune, and a few essentials onto a shuttle to the Volparis Orbital Transit Station, where he brought his first intergalactic spaceship fresh off of the assembly line. The Volpri was bleeding-edge Vulcan engineering and controlled by a fully autonomous, self-flying, self-maintaining network of artificial intelligences. As such, many intergalactic laws necessary for ownership were bypassed and qualifications deemed unnecessary. Any Vulcan able to buy a house would also be capable of buying a ship of the same model as the Volpri. For the next few years, Sen traveled the galaxy. At first, every new experience was eye-opening. Nothing was like Volparis, and nothing could have prepared him for the sheer variety the galaxy had to offer. However, after those few years of travel, Sen started to feel more lost than he had ever been. He had no guide, with nothing familiar. He felt completely astray in a sea of stars. One day, while shopping at the Antares system outlets, Sen witnessed an attempt at armed robbery. A lone man had taken a hostage, but was nearly surrounded by law enforcement. Still sensitive to the spirits he guided for 24 years of his life, Sen noticed something menacing about the situation. The man possessed the single most distraught and hate-filled aura Sen had ever encountered. It screamed its destructive nature, and the negative spiritual energy was nearly strong enough to taint the others around him. Within the next instant, an officer took a shot at the criminal, which instantly killed the man, but also released a wave of negative spiritual energy. Sen sprung into action in an attempt to contain and quell the spirit before it could escape. However, the spirit instantly repelled the binds Sen attempted to place it in, and disappeared into the galaxy. Shaken by the exposure to such a spirit, Sen returned to his ship and plotted a course back home for the first time since leaving. Sensitive from the event, as he journeyed back across the galaxy through hyperspace, Sen felt an immense amount of anguish from thousands of spirits. He felt powerless as a spirit guide at that moment. He felt powerless in the only way that he had ever known himself to be useful. When he returned to Volparis, he waited in orbit until nightfall came to his hometown before taking a shuttle down to the surface. Sen hoverboarded up the mountain and entered while the shrine's activities had already ceased for the day. Sen snuck through the shrine to the deepest chambers in the heart of the mountain. These chambers were for communing directly with one of the elemental deities that the Vulcan worshipped at each of the largest shrines in Volparis. Okay, guys, I'm going to transition to the next slide, but give me 1 second because I forgot to fill up my water, and I'm going to need water with all this reading. So just give me 1 second. I'll be right back really quick. Okay, I have water. I have returned. It is known that the spirits of only the strongest Vulcan in the galaxy. Welcome, Ash. Thank you for interrupting the reading. Probably should turn those off while, is there a way? Thank you for interrupting the reading. Where was I? Oh, it is known that the spirits of only the strongest Vulcan in the galaxy could attune to each of the 8 elements. Shrines to the elements of fire, water, earth, air, ice, light, dark, and anima were essential to Vulcan society. Shirakami's shrine was the shrine of ice. Few Vulcan were actually aware of that fact. The fact that this mountain was hollowed out by a glacier that split it from base to peak. Most would assume being in the most frigid parts of their world would be enough to get closest to the elemental deity of ice. But it was only here within the frozen core that one could commune with her. Sen channeled all of his spiritual energy into a small altar just a few feet from the exposed glacier. The cold was bitter and biting, almost as if trying to freeze his soul in its tracks, but Sen found a way to persist. Suddenly, a wave of energy was released from the glacier. Ice particles fluttered off of the glacier, rapidly swirling together until they coalesced into the figure of a Vulpin woman with 9 tails, several times Sen's size. Young pup, you have not earned this stolen audience with Yukimori. State your intentions. This meeting will be brief, the glacial figure spoke. Sen took a breath and steadied his shivering before explaining. I, Shimizu Senxain of the Shimizu clan, have come to ask for your spiritual blessing, Almighty Yukimori, Spirit of Ice. And why would Yukimori bestow upon you her blessing? Would Yukimori so willingly allow you, a servant of her shrine, one who would abandon his duty, to run free with her power? The figure questioned him, unmoving, her gaze of sheer cold judgment fixed upon his eyes. At one point, I was unfit to continue my duty, I admit that. My obligation to the Vulpin people as purveyor of Yukimori's will, as guide to their souls, was weighty and yet meaningless. Now I have found renewed meaning in that purpose on a greater scale. I stand before you today to ask you for the power not to bring peace to the Vulpin people, but instead to the tormented spirits that drift across this galaxy. I have witnessed in my journey spirits in turmoil I never knew to be possible, yet we, the Vulpin people, turn a blind eye to the howls for help from the deepest reaches of the void. Someone has to help them. Someone must guide this galaxy to peace. Yukimori let out a laugh, and a gust of icy wind blew across the chamber. And that someone would be you. Sen grimaced as the thought of the gravity of what he had planned to do sunk in. You have just asked Yukimori to help you become the galaxy's next nine-tailed. Nine-tailed? Young pup, have you never wondered why some Vulpin have more than one tail? Some Vulpin are more spiritually attuned to the planet, or at least their bloodline is spiritually strong, or so I was taught. Sen guessed, assuming there was more to the story. If a strong spiritual connection was all a Vulpin needed, the most devout would surely be nine-tailed, would they not? Yukimori, I've never even seen a Vulpin with more than 4 tails. Why, that is because there are currently no known Vulpin in the galaxy who have attuned to more than 3 of the 8 elements, Yukimori explained. To obtain more spiritual power, you must attune to each of the elements at each of the other shrines. And all that power is necessary to bring peace to the galaxy? Yes, pup. It is not simply necessary, it is the destiny of every nine-tailed. The galaxy has not known peace for the last 2 billion years. It is likely the Vulpin do not even remember the prophecy passed on by their ancestors. But you're just simply telling me this? Yes, as you are the first pup to request my blessing for anything more than shrine-related duties. You are the first Vulpin to request the power of the elements for the purpose that these blessings were created, and even as long as Yukimori can remember. Yukimori raised her hand as the elemental energy of ice gathered in her palm. Before condensing into a small marble-sized orb. Sorry. Take a sip. Sen stared in anticipation until the small orb started to levitate before suddenly shooting at a blinding speed into the center of his chest. It stung for a moment as it entered, then froze until it burned. The agony strong enough to buckle his legs, but ended as quickly as it began. Surprised, Sen looked up at Yukimori. Yukimori expected more of a struggle, but it seems your spirit accepts the power of ice. I warn you, pup, the other elements will not be as gentle. Some may not even grant you an audience if you were to appear before them in the state you are in now. Yukimori paused as Sen started to pick himself up from the ground. What in the... Sen started to feel something jutting from his rear. Panicked, he twisted his body and adjusted his pants to let the growing appendage through his tail hole. Within seconds, he had a second tail, nearly identical to the first. He waved them both in disbelief. As for what you must do to become the next nine-tailed, Yukimori cannot guide you down that path. It is time for you to find your strength. When you do, return to Vulparis and commune with my brothers and sisters. Receive their blessings. Only then will you be able to achieve your calling, Yukimori said before fading to snow. Sen lingered in the chamber for a moment. He thought to himself about the new purpose he had found and the power thrust upon him. He thought of all the questions still unanswered. What did the power of the elements have to do with the tormented spirit of the galaxy? What would he have to do to gain the favor of the others? Sen lingered for only a moment before leaving to find the answers he sought. Yay! First chapter! Woo! So now you guys know, that's my journey. That's what we're going for. Oh, man. But yes, we do have 2 more lore chapters to share with you today. And I actually got through that reading a little faster, probably because I'm nervous. I got through that reading a little faster than Tales, bruh, Tales. Than I had practiced. Probably because I'm nervous. But yes, I would be more than happy to maybe answer any questions that you guys might have about the lore throughout the stream. I'd love to hear from you guys if you guys have any feedback or anything you found exceptionally cool about it. I took a lot of inspiration from, like, I guess more established myths and stuff. I've always been really interested in both sci-fi and fantasy. So this is my crack at kind of combining the two into like this like space fantasy kind of thing that we're going for. With, you know, like a whole little like prophecy and like spirits and stuff, but like technology and stuff will be pretty prevalent as we go on a galaxy trotting adventure. Yeah.